welcome to Dear Katie, the podcast that amplifies courageous voices and real stories of resilience, healing, and hope after trauma. Inspired by the many letters Katie has received over the last 20 years, each week she interviews survivors, healers, and experts to honor their stories and explore the many paths to healing and hope. Before we begin, please know, many episodes of Dear Katie cover sensitive topics related to sexual violence, trauma, and recovery. Listen with care and take the space you need to take care of yourself. Your well-being is what matters most. Now, let's join Katie and today's guest for a conversation that matters.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Dear Katie podcast. As you all have heard my voice so many times, it is my honor to sit in every one of these episodes alongside you, listen, think, feel, heal, strengthen, all the good things, all the harmful things we can shed, we can take in, we can walk forward, we can walk backwards a little bit, whatever you all need. It's really important to think through every one of our amazing, powerful guests. Halli Faulkner is going to, I know, be one of your inspirations. So remember, get out your journal, write along, think along, take a break at any moment. If you need to, just fresh air, cup of coffee, somersaults, chocolate always works for me, but whatever helps you, take a breath. And I'm going to read a little bit about Halli and then let her share more about who she is and where she's been and what she's doing. So Halli Faulkner is a somatic therapist and a trauma-informed trainer who specializes in creating healing spaces for sexual assault survivors. She draws on body-based practices, mindfulness, and compassionate presence. She supports individuals and communities both in reconnecting with their bodies and restoring a sense of safety, agency, and wholeness. Through her trainings and programs, Halli helps women cultivate resilience, deepen embodiment, and build pathways to collective healing. She loves reality TV. She swims in the ocean. Awesome. And she rides bikes with her 6-year-old daughter. Oh my goodness. That's so amazing about the swimming in the ocean. That's one of my favorite things.
No way. Where do you like to swim?
A fun fact, since I don't know what our listeners know about me, but Halli. So one time I grew up on every summer on Lake Ontario, fresh water. So I would do these crazy things like swim as far as I could out and back. And then we had logs that would trees would fall in the lake. And so we would, not barefoot, but put on our ugliest, most decrepit sneakers and log roll and paddle. And then about ocean swimming, I once went on a vacation and I found out the circumference of the island I was like, I can totally swim around the whole thing. And I was like, who cares about fish and sharks and whatever else? So I just every morning we were there, I would just get up and swim at 6 a.m. around the whole island. So I'm such a fish, but I'm a Cancer, right? So I'm a fish.
So water is my happy place.
Me too.
And I actually find that for many survivors, there's something just so deeply healing about water. And my theory on it is that water is deeply connected with the second chakra.
Okay.
Which
just tell me more about that.
Yeah. So we'll get right into it, right? So there's the 7 chakras, which are just these major energy centers in the body. And the second chakra sits right in our pelvic bowl. And when we experience sexual trauma, our second chakra can often be really affected and harmed. And the element that's associated with the second chakra is water. And so I just find for so many survivors I work with, when we're doing resourcing and tapping into the resources that are deeply healing for us, it's I walk around the pond, I get in the canoe, I take a long bath, right? It's all these beautiful connections with water.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, we'll talk more, but thanks for explaining that. Now it's I'm figuring out. So, okay, you grew up where? And tell us a little bit about the start of your life.
Sure. So the start of my life was in Boise, Idaho. I was born in Boise. I lived there for a few years before my parents moved to New York, rural New York, small town called Delhi. And I actually moved to Rochester, New York on Lake Ontario
Oh, wow.
when I was about 5 years old, and then grew up my whole life in Rochester. Spent a lot of time in the Finger Lakes, speaking of like absolutely beautiful bodies of water. Yeah, and then I spent a lot of time in California on the West Coast, and then in DC, Washington, DC, where I live now.
Okay, so you bounced around, but lots of different
Yeah.
lakes. Idaho, not so near lakes. I don't know about Boise near a lake. Is there a lake out there? I don't know about that.
So my grandparents lived on the Snake River, which
Oh,
was, really beautiful river. Yeah, that
yeah.
runs north
It goes
south
all the
in
way down
Idaho.
past like many important. You go on like tours there, and you can raft. Like I think you can raft down the Snake.
Yeah, it's really
Or
pretty.
near the Tetons? Am I messing this up?
Hmm. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think so. Yeah, I just remember in ninth grade, I did a trip for geology class, believe it or not. And we went all the way to the Snake River. It was amazing. That's why I was like, oh, I didn't know it went up to Idaho. Of course it did. I had to start.
Yeah, it's beautiful territory. And at the time when I was growing up, I only lived there for a few years as a kiddo, but I got to go back over time and just like really fall in love with the beauty of nature, right? And I don't know about you, but for me, like, thinking about nervous system balance and like being taken care of and like being held, like
Yeah.
I always come back to Mother Nature, right? Like I feel safe with her. I feel cared for with her. So that even as a kid, like I felt safe. There was some kind of safety that I felt when I was like on the river and with the trees and all that good
Yeah, it's
stuff.
incredible, incredible. And I know, for our listeners, Holly's story is one that starts at a really young age. So um, I hate to even usually we get a little farther in, but I did actually, before we talk about that, did you, so when you were in you spent a lot of time in Rochester, you said. So did you go to
Yeah.
high school there and then college at all in New York, or like what was high school like?
Yeah, I went to high school in Rochester and then I went to college in Rochester too.
At like University of or New
University of
York?
Rochester, yeah.
Okay, that's a great place. And there's the Rochester Institute of Technology right down the way.
Hmm.
I remember. Okay, and what did you study while you were at Rochester?
I was an English major just because I like to read books
All kinds
and
of
to write.
books, or like, did you have a favorite genre?
Um, Not really. I mean, to me, a good book is a good book. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
anything written by a woman, to be honest, like that, is a brilliant
Dora
writer. Like I'll
Welty.
take it.
Did you ever read Eudora Welty?
I think I did. I forget what she wrote though.
Yeah, I'm forgetting. I just remembered the cover. It was in AP English in high school, and I loved it. I need to
Okay.
go find the book.
Yeah, we need to find out what this book is called.
So good. I was like, wow, my AP English teacher, she was so nice to bring in like new women writers.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then after college, what did you do after college?
What did I do after college? I did Teach for America in Los Angeles. So I was a middle school teacher in LA, which was the hardest job I've ever had and probably ever will have, besides maybe being a parent. But I loved it. I love my students. I love their families. I learned so much from them. I hope they learned a little bit from me. And then I went to law school at George Washington University to learn about how to work in law and policy and learn how to fight for just like a better education system overall, particularly for lower income people and communities of color who, deserve better, frankly, from our country's education
I
system.
want to hop back to the Teach for America and how it was hard. What resonated immediately, and it's such a stereotype. I spent 3 weeks a year in Jacksonville, Florida, speaking to 23 public high schools for 3 Januaries, like 3 years in a row, 3 Januaries. And I was terrified I would not be able to connect with the students with whom I was speaking about.
Yeah.
I was just terrified on every level, like of failure, just because humans are so uniquely special in what they understand as they grow up. and presuming that my understanding would be anything close to what they, down to word choices or down to examples, right? Down to adjectives and adverbs, right?
Yeah.
It's very important to think about, like, I just try and think about how to make yourself relevant. And so, but anyway, that was just me. And I don't know what part of LA. LA is a massive place.
Yeah.
But you said it was really hard. So what do you think was hard in that moment?
Oh gosh. Part of what was hard was that my students were 7th and 8th graders, and they were on an average of like a 3rd or 4th grade reading level.
Oh gosh.
And by no fault of their own, right? Like the system had failed them.
Mm-hmm.
And, teaching reading and writing is an art, but it's very, very much a science. Like it's an incredibly hard and complex thing to teach and to learn. And so the task in front of me, right, of like supporting students in growing multiple grade levels in the span of a year. Mm-hmm. And by the way, my students had a shortened school year because their schools were overcrowded.
Oh gosh.
Was just really hard and daunting. My students were amazing. Their families were amazing. They were from countries from all over the world. There were 52 languages spoken in our school. We were in East Hollywood.
Wow.
And so they were honestly like ready to learn, and I was ready to teach, but just like the task in front of us was so enormous. And they made good progress in the time, but it wasn't enough, right? Like they needed to grow 3 grade levels, and they grew like 1.5 or 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that totally makes sense now. And thanks for explaining that. Okay, I'm not feeling overwhelmed. We've got lots of things to do in the world.
Yeah, we'll take our time.
Yeah, so GW law that's interesting. Did you just, at that point, what was your like goal for law school? What were you going to head toward? I think you said advocacy around underprivileged students, or I forget.
Yeah. So I've always had this like really strong sense of justice. I was kind of like born with it. And especially after seeing my students and their families and how much the system had failed them, I was like, let me see what I can do. Just like you, right? Like, let me see what I can do to like advocate for them, use the privilege that I have, right? To, like having had a good education and like do what I can to help make public schools better. Mm-hmm. So that was my thinking. And I would also say one of my coping mechanisms as a survivor has been perfectionism. Mm. And ever since I was little, I had this idea that like, if I can just, it's almost like a shield, right? If I can just be perfect enough, right? That if I can just project the shield of perfectionism, get good grades, get the accolades, go to all the fancy schools, whatever it is, get the awards, then no one's going to bother to look under the hood of my heart, right? And to know what's really going on and like all this devastation, frankly, that I'm carrying around with me, because it was just felt like too much for anyone to look at or bear, for many years.
I'm interrupting because this is like, I need to take it, like you say these great things and then you keep going, and we need like hold that page, like don't turn the page of the book yet.
Okay.
Because that was like gorgeous. So maybe we now just interject, because our listeners are probably like, what the F happened? Like, where was this? And I thought it would be helpful for them to understand, our listeners are all over, right? They're all ages, they're all stages of healing. They've been through all different kinds of trauma, from strangers in parking lots to, oh my gosh, multitude of perpetrators starting at 2. So can you give some context to what you were like, where, because then we can understand all your stuff. So who, what, when, where, like whatever where do you want to start with that part?
Yeah. So, I mean, as you were alluding to, like it starts almost, it's the beginning of my life, which is like sad and hard. But it's the truth of my story. I often say like, it sucks to have to give a content warning just to tell the honest story of my life, but that's the life that I was born into. I not by accident. Right. So my dad, my biological dad, was the person who sexually abused me from a very young age. I, to be honest, have like murky memories of even just like being in a diaper and being like touched in weird ways. But my first very clear memory of being abused was when I was maybe 3.5, 4 years old. And he would, not to go into too much detail, but, come into my bedroom at night while my mom and my sister were sleeping down the hall and abuse me. And it was the worst moments of my life. And, because I was so young, I certainly didn't have, the words or language or coping mechanisms to understand or process or share any of it. So I very much internalized it. And it, happened in different ways throughout the years. And then finally, thank goodness, stopped when I was about maybe 8 or 9 years old. The one thing that I'll add, because I think it is important to share, because obviously this has happened to many other kids and women as well, is that I think based on some of the memory work that I've done, that there was some like drugs involved. Like I wasn't fully conscious or like, sober in the way that like usual memories work when some of these things were happening, especially as I got older. And so that's kind of like part of my picture and part of like what the unpacking has been like. So all that to say is the abuse happened from when I was very, very young to when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And then from that time on, right, I have spent the rest of my life coping and then finally healing, which we can talk about.
Okay, just a couple questions. You mentioned your mom and your sister. Is your sister older or younger?
My little sister.
Younger.
Yeah, my little sweetheart sister.
Okay. And your mom and dad, can you tell me or us a little bit about them? Like, were they high school sweethearts? Did they fight a lot? Did your mom stay at home? Like, what was the backstory on your parents?
Yeah, they met in school, graduate school. My dad was in medical school at Strong Hospital to be a doctor. He's doing his residency actually, and my mom was in midwifery school. So they're both going to the medical school there, and they were, I think it's fair to say, in an abusive relationship. Not physically abusive, but definitely emotionally abusive. He was a narcissist, a tyrant, a bully. And it was one of those houses where it wasn't like laughter or play. It was like when he comes in the room, like we're all afraid, that kind of thing.
Gosh.
And so and so that he was just kind of a bully to the three of us, me and my mom and my sister, and we all really lived in fear of him. And so they divorced when I was 5.5 years old.
Oh.
Which was great because then on the one hand, my sister and I didn't have to spend very much time with him. We spent every other weekend with him and went on some trips with him. But on the other hand, it gave him more freedom to not be watched, right? When my sister and I were with him, which opened up the door for him to just be a nightmare, a monster. So it was a both and, but yeah, they split when I was 5 years old. And eventually when I was like 9, my mom remarried, just a wonderful, kind angel of a man. So that was a blessing for our little family.
You think that's why it had stopped when you were 9?
I think it stopped because I was getting too old to try to take advantage of me anymore.
And you figured that out. And then were you ever, I mean, 9 is still so young, Halli. It's like at that age, I don't even know if you would think about your younger sister being the next target. Did that ever cross your mind that?
It was constantly on my mind.
Oh gosh. Yeah. And so, but you referred to your sister as your sweetheart, like sister.
She is.
You must two get along okay?
Yeah, we're really close. And we like, my sister's the one, like, obviously the thing that makes me weepy, right? But like she, yeah, we support each other unconditionally.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh my God,
yeah.
That's so good. And then the only other question I have about like right now that comes to mind is, did you ever tell your mom? I mean, your mom must know, but when you disclosed to her at some point, and what point, and what did you say, and how did she respond?
So I'm like noticing my breath, right? Taking a moment to notice my breath.
I mean, I don't know if it went well. Like I could have asked you the worst question ever. She hates on you, and you like never talked to her. And this is just
no, it's not the worst question ever. I'm just like taking care of my nervous system, right? So, I remember like after the first time he came in my room at night, I remember either that night or the next morning. I think it was the next morning. Like, and I was little kid, right? But I still remember this vividly because I have like the body sensation. I remember my jaw like tightening and having this like decision or like understanding of myself, like it's me against the world.
Oh my God.
Right? Like, yeah. And like, and I lived that way. And there's a part of me that still lives that way, right? Like I still am like clenched up sometimes and I have to like invite myself to be like, the world is safe for you now. Like you can share things with people, you can connect with people. But even at that time, like I just decided it wasn't safe. Like no one was safe out there, especially because my mom was like being emotionally abused and bullied herself. And I saw that, right? So it's like, what is she going to do for me? Like we're all being punished by this person, right? And so I didn't tell anyone. And I, for many years, forgot what happened. I just put the memories in a box and tried as hard as I could to keep them shoved underground. So it wasn't until I was in my late 20s that I started making space for myself to remember and then telling my friends and loved ones what had happened, and my mom included. Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think that was a good time, like late 20s, to start to have space?
2 reasons.
Okay.
I moved to California, so I had a lot of space to myself. I had like a healthy distance from my family and from my biological dad, who I was still in like a little bit of contact with at the time. So I had space, right? Like all of a sudden I'm on my own life. I'm like a whole country away. And I started a daily yoga and meditation practice, right? Like I woke up and no matter what, I had that foundation, like the balancing, the resetting, the centering, the solidness in myself. Mm-hmm. I see your face like,
right?
What was that?
That sounds perfect. Like,
yeah.
You were.
And so I finally was like ready, right? Like I think like we remember when we're ready.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, like, that totally makes exact good sense. And it made me think about this, Halli, like so many guests, it's like we as survivors, like I feel like I've met, I hate to say men, that's really mean to me. Like sometimes they're like, oh, I'm just so suffering. And they're suffering about things that we don't even worry about sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. Or that we don't have I guess even healing and suffering leisurely activities. If that makes sense. Like you have to have the time and the space to even think about them. And if everything is just day to day survival and like shoving things down to stay in a certain track of stability, it doesn't give us time. So I guess I would, hope our listeners would say you don't have to move to California. Like like even if it's micro, even if you're listening and you're 18 or younger, I feel like if you could just make those micro spaces for yourself to start to allow attention and honoring your truth, right? It starts with honoring your truth almost. And saying, it happened and I'm not less than.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
No, I mean, I think, I'm sure you've talked about this before, like even just the honoring of it happened, right, is like, for me, was so important. And it took years, like, to fully believe myself. As I started like recovering the memories and telling people, it took years for me to like fully believe myself. Right?
What were some of the things that people said along the way that were like the best things? Like when what were like shocking, like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. I love that. Like somebody said something, and what was it along the way?
So, my partner at the time was like really one of the people who was like very stable for me when I was started my own healing process. So when I was like in my late 20s, I started EMDR therapy and I started really making space for myself to heal. And that's when I had like the daily yoga and meditation practice. And I remember someone asked my partner, like, what's, if you're in a relationship with survivor, romantic or otherwise, like what's the best way to approach them? How to support, how do you support them? And my partner said, be patient.
That's nice.
And what was that?
That's very nice. Patience.
Yeah. And I just like, I think the more I do like trauma informed work and leadership, like the more I appreciate how important it is for us to have the space and the time to heal at our own pace, right? Like, so whenever I'm like teaching or training, it's like, go at your own pace, take breaks. Like if it feels like too much, turn off the Zoom, or on the other side, like go ahead if you want, like go faster. Like so much as women, we're like expected to move at someone else's pace and like not honor the natural pace and rhythm of our own bodies. And so that was one of the most beautiful things I heard, honestly, is like, there is someone who loves me enough to be patient with me and who's making space for me to move at my own pace.
That's gorgeous. I think when you say that, I'm also thinking about like the yoga part, which is the body part, which is a different pace of reclaiming our body than it might be to reclaim the flashbacks and the memories. Like the synchronicity of healing body trauma and emotional, psychological trauma is not always in sync. And so what I like is you had started out with kind of body healing, which I think is yoga to me. Like yoga is like sitting there on each pose, especially if they're long poses, you're just like breathing in and thinking just about one single moment and your body in that moment. That's totally your choice, right? I mean, it was a pose that someone designed, but it's about like embracing that design and figuring out what is this for me. And that's like a very patient moment with our bodies and letting us focus on that. And then sometimes I think the psychological and emotional is more like the people, which we don't always have good people to help us navigate the brain space, the head space, the emotion space, the breathing, the settling, the knee-jerk reactions that we want to dilute, dissipate. And that's much harder to me. I feel like the body part, sometimes if you can do that work, the body's good at healing and the emotions not so good. EMDR is better, but I think as survivors, the emotion part. So anyway, I head in that direction with our conversation is like, because that's your practice now, is helping survivors. Maybe you could answer that in the context after you tell everyone what work you're doing. And when you started, so we had the lawyering. When did you wait, I'll come back to that question.
Okay.
The lawyering part, did you work at a firm? Were you working for an agency? What did you do with the law school stuff?
Yeah, so I graduated from law school in 2011, and then ever since then worked in education policy and advocacy. And then as I was doing that work in advocacy, kind of, started to, ground myself in my own yoga and meditation practice, do EMDR therapy. And then when I was about, 5-6 years into my own really intensive healing process, using a lot of different modalities, I started to want to share the things that I had learned with other survivors. I actually, this is a very woo-woo story, but I had quit an education advocacy job that was just terrible. It's the only job I've ever quit, and I quit, and because I was miserable. And I remember walking down Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood and being like, asking myself, I think aloud, like, what do I actually want to do, right? I just quit this job. I have space. I have time. Like, what do I want to do? And it was so clear. It was like create healing spaces for survivors.
Okay.
Like, boom, right? And so, it was like ask and I received. And so ever since then, I've been just kind of slowly working with more and more survivors. And I first started off with yoga and meditation workshops. I called them woman warrior workshops at the time, because I think of all the women I work with as just like badass warriors. And I think I wanted to give myself the courage too, right? To like do this work and move into uncharted territory. So I got trained in yoga and trauma-informed yoga and started teaching these woman warrior workshops in California and then on the East Coast. And from the very first workshop I taught in Sacramento in, I think, 2017, the rooms were full. I just put flyers up in Sacramento like, hey, this workshop for survivors is happening. It's 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday. And the room had like over 30 women in it. Like I can just see this big circle we made so clearly. And women I didn't know. I didn't know anyone, right? I didn't know their stories, but I knew that we had experienced something similar. And ever since then, I've been leading these workshops in different ways for women. I eventually created a private practice, a somatic therapy practice, so I can work with survivors one-on-one if that's what people are interested in. And I also now lead a trauma-informed certification that's certified by the Yoga Alliance. So it's for anyone who wants to learn like yoga, mindfulness, simple kind of healing modalities to, create healing spaces for survivors.
Amazing. And so is that an online, in-person, physical location? Where are these workshops? Or all of the above?
So most of the workshops for survivors that I teach are in person these days. I kind of got sick of teaching online, to be honest, like post-pandemic. My training is fully online. My trauma-informed certification and training is fully online. I usually offer it once in the spring and once in the fall. And then the somatic therapy that I do with people one-on-one, it's both online or in person if you're in DC.
Okay, let's come back to that at the very end so they can understand what that is.
Sure.
But back to like my question about the body healing and the psychological, and like catching up the parts of ourselves, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like, what are your thoughts there? Because you're doing both.
It's interesting that you ask that, because to me, I guess all of our bodies and our experiences, like mind, body, spirit connections and experiences, are probably different. I lived most of my life up until I was 30 from like the neck up. Like I really didn't feel anything in my body. I was disassociated, right? And so part of my healing process over the past, 10 plus years has like moving my awareness back down into my body. And as part of that, I now really feel my emotions in my body. So if I feel like pleasure or guilt or shame, it's like in my hips, right? In that pelvic area. If I feel like anger or strength or courage, right? It's in my belly. If I'm feeling like love or openness, it's in my heart. If I feel like curiosity, right? It's like around here, like it's a little vibration in my like third eye space. So part of healing for me is, I think, probably integrating like my emotions, my mind, my body. So I feel like a kind of like a whole, like, I don't know, like a whole like sphere of a person, rather than just these kind of like disintegrated parts. And I actually think that's like part of the beauty of yoga, and also particularly meditation, I think, is that it invites us to take all the different parts of us. And when we're living with trauma, especially if we have PTSD, it can feel like we're not whole, like there's all these different parts of us that are fragmented. And so like if we can sit and center, right? So like consolidate our energy at the core and the central channel, then we can like bring together the mind and body and spirit.
Okay,
so
Halli,
they feel,
I'm like my head's blowing up right now, because I'm like, how can, I mean, guess like I'm always thinking so many crazy thoughts. Like Tinkerbell comes along and plops you, and like, I've got all my, or like Pinocchio, you come to life.
yeah.
I'm thinking all the fairy tales, like, or you're like a real person now, right? like a full body. It's like, yeah, what you just described. It's like somebody came along and gave you life. Like you're not a puppet anymore, like with some master of trauma controlling every part of your body. And now you have this mobility and this sensual self, right? But how did that happen? Like what? I want to say the strings didn't get cut one day, and all of a sudden you're running
right
like
right, like what was the magic tink on my head?
I asked you about like what was the trigger point for getting the space, and you're like, I moved to California, I was free. I got space. So how did this part happen? Like, was it the daily practice? Was it like I focused on one part at a time? Did the EDMR thing, how, like, can you describe it? Because our listeners are like, that sounds great. How do I become that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the first thing I would say is like, that might sound great to some people, and it's definitely great most of the time. But also, like, I work with a lot of people a lot of women, survivors, who it doesn't feel good to be in their bodies, and it feels terrifying and it feels overwhelming. And when they get in touch with their bodies, like their nervous system shuts down. And so that's part of the reason why like the pacing piece, right? The patience is so important, because I always say, like, if it feels like too much to notice, maybe just notice your big toe. Maybe just notice your pinky toe. Like, what does that feel like? Because if we are dissociated for a long time, it usually means there's so much stuff our body's carrying that's impossibly painful to feel, right? So like getting reacquainted with our bodies has to be something that we do slowly and carefully and at our own pace. Maybe not slowly, just carefully and at our own pace, right? Whatever that pace is. I would say I do live in the 4D. So I know now that there are angels that have helped me throughout my healing process. So I have to give a shout out to them. Thank you. My grandma is there. I'll give a shout out to you as well. Hi, Gaga. Thank you. And also in the 3D, EMDR therapy has been a lifesaver for me. I cannot recommend it highly enough to anyone who's experienced trauma. I am not a scientist. I am a yoga teacher, but
the EMDR or EDM?
Yeah.
EMDR?
EM.
Yeah. So I had one guest, I think, who kind of talked about it being like a fast track. Like, she's like, sometimes it only takes 2 or 3 sessions, but sometimes it takes a longer time. What was your experience with that? Was it like so overwhelmingly successful that it only took a couple times, or was it over a year? Like, what was your experience that you thought worked well?
Yeah,
Because clearly you're successful at it, so like it's helping. So what was your?
It has helped me a lot. I think it is a fast track because what EMDR does, again, I'm not a scientist, but I know that partially what it does is rapidly connect the left and right sides of the brain so they work together and just process trauma like that. Like, it really is a miracle how quickly the trauma gets processed rather than storing it in your brain. And I think you could do a lifetime of talk therapy and not get what you would get in one EMDR session. That being said, the sessions are really hard. Like, basically what you have to do, what I did, was go back to the worst memory, the most painful memory, the memory that felt unbearable, and talk through it ad nauseum, holding these little tappers, right? And so you got to find a really good therapist who you really trust and have that trusting relationship with. I did it for about a year, and maybe in some change, when I lived in Los Angeles, and then took a break for about 10 years. I just went back and did a little bit of it recently. I did a methodology called brain spotting. That's like a cousin of EMDR, which I'd also recommend if you find a good person. And I can, even in the show notes, I can recommend some good people if people are interested. But yeah, I always say, like, different healing modalities work for different people. And we all have to find the path that works for us, but it has certainly been really helpful for me and a lot of people that I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Halli. I wanted to make sure, well, you had written down some like every survivor must hear some of these things. And that was the brain. You mentioned all of them, but you also talked about writing and connecting. Just a couple, you wrote so many great things when you filled all this information out. Do you want to share any more of those? Because I want to talk about anything else that's really important to you. And then I want to end kind of talking about the practice and the one-to-one, as well as if anyone's a yoga instructor and wants to, like, what does it mean to take that online twice-a-year course that you're talking about? So can you?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, like, my memory is not what it used to be, but I think what I probably wrote, what I feel called to say now is that this is obvious, right? Because, like, we're here together. But if you are a survivor, you not only are you not alone, but, like, you are surrounded, and I'm emotional again, you are surrounded by the most beautiful, brave, tough, caring, sensitive, brilliant community of survivors. Like, you are. That's who we are. And, like, to experience, like, such devastation and harm in our bodies, in our minds or spirits, and then to turn around and say, I'm going to heal. Right? Like, I'm going to stop this cycle. I'm not going to inflict it. Not only am I not going to inflict this on anyone else, but I'm going to actually hold space for healing for myself. Right? And maybe even other people. Like, these are the most amazing humans that I know. And so, if you ever are feeling alone, please know, like, we are here.
Yeah.
Like, we are here. We are amazing. We love you. We love each other. And like, we are here walking this path together.
That's gorgeous. I mean, Halli, that's the whole purpose. That's why I started the podcast.
I know.
Together, we're not alone. And it's actually the whole, I think one of the coolest thing about Take Back the Night itself as a movement goes back 50 plus years. And it was kind of just this whole collectiveness of, we are in these public spaces holding each other together. We're holding each other's hearts. We're holding each other's safety. We're holding each other's trust. We're saying we believe each other. It's like unconditional. It's the most perfect, nice thing ever. Like, it's tragic that we have to go through this just to help each other. But someday there'll be more trauma. Like, we who survived this will go on to heal more parts of the world that need healing from other traumas, right? Like, we who've been traumatized understand how much we lost. Like, it should not stop us from accomplishing so many other things. The only glory is it informs us, right? It informs us. So gosh, that was an amazing part. Kundalini yoga. I'm looking at your notes. Kundalini, like, I'm so sorry. Sometimes I feel like all the terminology in yoga, I need to go to school for this. It's like I just started working with Twitch. Halli, it's like, I don't even know all these emoticons and all this. Like, I need a whole new dictionary. It's like I need to study a foreign language. And I know yoga is not that bad. I should get some of this down. Like flow, got that. Right? Like, I got some of it. But Kundalini, which one is that?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've been teaching yoga for over a decade, and I don't know the terms myself, so you're not alone.
Okay.
So Kundalini is a very kind of strange, underground, I would say esoteric type of yoga. And it focuses less on the physical body and more on the energetic body and raising our consciousness, raising our vibration, and actually like expanding our energy field. It's really important for the times that we're living in now, when so many of the kind of structures that we've taken for granted are kind of crumbling, and it's time to create a new world order. And it's time to really like tap into our own individual and communal power. So I love it. I adore it. I've been practicing for a long time. I learned from my teacher, Krishna Kaur, who's an 86-year-old badass yoga teacher living in Los Angeles. Cool. Yeah. Shout out to Krishna. And for many, many people I teach, it's created profound change in their lives. So I feel really honored to be able to share it with people.
Perfect. Okay. So closing out, go back to the two things and describe maybe first the yoga training, and we can put it in show notes, but what can one expect? Is it for anyone? Do you have to know how to do yoga? Is it for a teacher training? Like, who's it for? And what does it look like?
Yes, it's for anyone. I like to say anyone who works with people, which is most people. It's a weekend-long immersive training. Most people who join are either survivors themselves and or people who work in any kind of direct services. So therapists, doctors, nurses, yoga teachers, dance teachers, advocacy workers, social workers. And it's for anyone who wants to learn kind of basic tools for supporting people who've experienced trauma, particularly survivors, body-based tools for grounding, for centering, for containing, and also like trauma-informed ways to communicate. So like always giving people permission, always being invitational. At the end, everyone closes, each person is invited to kind of teach their own little mini 5-minute lesson for survivors, just to kind of practice what it means to hold a trauma-informed space. So it's a beautiful training, and so many people who join say, like, I joined this training to learn how to support others, but I really learned how to support myself as a survivor, which is really makes me happy, right? Makes me touched. And so many survivors who take the training actually just keep coming back as a way to be with other survivors and continue to learn how to hold space for themselves and other people. So it's been, incredible to lead. This is my 6th or 7th year now leading the trainings.
Amazing. And then one-to-one somatic therapy that you do, is it therapy online? Do people come in person? How long? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I started this somatic therapy practice a few years ago after like the 100th person asked me, like, can I work with you one-on-one? And I always said no. And then eventually I was like, why am I saying no? So, I took a couple certification courses and started working with people one-on-one a few years ago who wanted kind of more individualized attention and support with their own healing processes. And we do some combination of kind of like talk therapy and then movement therapy and, some guided movement, visualization, meditation as well, to, support people ultimately in thriving, right? And kind of like taking the things that have happened to them and really learning how to navigate the rest of their lives in ways that feel good for them.
Wow, amazing. Oh my gosh, I feel like you're such a force of goodness.
I feel the same way about you. I'm so grateful for you.
We're just different. And oh my gosh, it's just like, I wish we could have a station of Halli. I call them the Halli station, like all over. It's one of our new projects is not new. It's been around 5 years, but we continue to grow our free legal hotline. And you mentioned lawsuits.
Oh wow!
So believe it or not, I was like, survivors need free legal assistance, like from the get-go, to just even understand and navigate from trauma-informed attorneys. So I was like, that's a good idea. Let's make that happen. And now it's just finding and populating the whole system. But that's like, I was like, we need to populate this system of what we're doing. And that would be ideal, is just to have, I won't say walk-in care, but it's just a different set of life choices, right? When we choose, you said, I chose to wake up every day and prioritize yoga and meditation. We can choose to wake up every day and set an intention, right? And whatever that looks like, and try and stick with it, right? The whole day, and be gentle with ourselves at the end, right? Because not every day is a perfect day. It's often not. But it's just amazing that there's so many. So anyway, we will put all this in the show notes for sure. And it's just been such a joy to speak with you. And I feel your energy coming right through the
same. Yeah,
for sure. But we will, is there last words, like anything else? Like we usually, I'm hopeful our listeners continue to like just take notes and like whatever comes to mind, and then just revisit episodes and what was the thing that came forward for them. So any last things? You said so many good things, but any last thoughts, like spirit thoughts, like your grandma's spirit coming in?
I do have a last thought.
Like whatever you just feel like is the last good thing that you're exploring now, or you have the 9-year-old, I think you said.
Yeah, you're right. I have a 6-year-old, and that was
multiple of 2, not 3.
Yeah, that is what my last thought was related to, is my 6-year-old.
There's your thoughts.
Yeah, right? Like, as women, whatever that means, right? Women, femmes, queer folks, right? Like, part of our job is to create a circle to take care of our kiddos. And I think the work that you're doing and the work that I'm doing, I know the work that you're doing, the work that I'm doing, the work that all of our survivors are doing on themselves and maybe in their communities, is making the world a safer place for my daughter and for her daughters, if she has them. Without a doubt, right? Like, the future is brighter for us and safer and healthier for us. And so when the work gets hard, because it's almost always hard, right? Like, that is also the truth, right? Like we're already doing it and we've already done it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes. Well, we will absolutely keep working toward this amazing future. But Halli, take wonderful care of yourself. And for our listeners, my goodness, just, no judgment. And today, I think we learned a lot more, about our parts, about taking care of our toes. Like one toe, I like when you said, let's start with a toe, a pinky. And I think that should be an accomplishment. So there's no amount of work. There's just doing the work. And there's no grade in this course. It is just together we're thriving and surviving. So until we meet again, everyone, take good care and be well and shatter the silence and the violence. Be well.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Dear Katie. These conversations are never easy, but they're always necessary, and we're so grateful you chose to share this space with us. If something in today's episode stirred something within you, please give yourself what you need. Whether that's rest, support, or just a deep breath, you're not alone. To hear more stories, resources, and survivor-centered conversations, be sure to subscribe and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We want to hear from you, so please leave us a review and share your feedback. Your thoughts help us create episodes that resonate with listeners. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.